Hello and welcome to today's video. In today's video, I'm going to show you how I made this little rose out of polymer clay. If you want to see the full video of the Baby Yoda holding the rose, be sure to check the description box below. Alright, we'll get started right after this. The first thing I'm going to do is sculpt the stem of the rose. I decided to use bright green pearl. It's a Premo Sculpey for the stem, so I'm just going to soften that up. And I am going to cut out a piece of paper to lay it on so I can move it around and I can actually bake it on the paper. So I'm just softening my Premo Sculpey. I'm going to roll it out into a stem shape. Go ahead and sculpt it. I wanted to have a little bit of a twist to it. I'm not making this a realistic rose. I just wanted to make it a rose for the Baby Yoda, aka Grogu, to hold. So I gave it a little bit smaller end for the bottom of the stem and then thicken it up where I want to put the flower. So I gave it a little bit of a twist. I wanted to, not be boring, have a little bit of a, character to it. And then I'm going to sculpt a couple of leaves. So I started off with one, sculpted out the shape, and then I want to draw in or do some indentions for the leaves to give it some texture. Once I'm happy with that, I'm going to go ahead and press it against the stem, use my ball tool at the base to attach it. So I'm just smoothing it in, blending the base of the leaf into the stem, and then just bend it out a little bit to give it some curve to it. Now I'm going to go ahead and sculpt another leaf using the same technique, using my needle tool to draw in the lines to give it some texture. Once that is done, I'm going to attach it the same way by using my ball tool at the base to smooth it into the rest of the stem. Now that I'm happy with that, I'm going to use my ball tool to smooth out the top, and then I'm going to attach a wire, and this will help attach my flower to the top of it. So I'm putting the wire in there. Then I'm going to go ahead and bake that according to package instructions. So I have a nice solid stem to attach my flower to. For the actual flower part of my rose, I'm using blue glitter and rose gold. Both of these are Premo Sculpey colors. I wanted to do a rose that was not natural, since it's Baby Yoda holding it. I wanted it to be something a little bit different, so I thought using these two colors mixed together would give me something that was, still looked like a rose, but it wasn't one that you would see anywhere else. Once that's softened up and mixed together, I'm going to go ahead and roll out a few pieces of my mixture to use for my petals. So I'm starting off with 6. I've sculpted a lot of different roses in the past, and I usually do about 5 or 6 petals on it, and that gives me a nice look to the flower. So that's what I'm going to start with. The first one I'm going to do is the center, so I'm rolling out into a circular shape, and then I close it in on itself. Now for the next one, for each petal after that, I'm going to go ahead and attach it, round it around the center, and then each one will kind of overlap. So I don't do them end to end, but I have them overlapping each other. And you'll notice that they start off tighter at the bottom, and then I do them a little bit looser as it goes towards the top of the flower. And I'll pull the petal down a little bit, so it gives that look of, gravity pulling the petals out as it opens up. So it gives a partially, open flower look. And I'm just going to keep doing that as I keep going around my flower. Now, there's really not a set number to do on this, and since it's a space rose, it can pretty much have as many petals as I want, but I wanted to make sure that it looked big enough for the stem. So when I checked it there, it didn't look quite big enough, so I want to add a few more petals to it. So I'm just going to keep rolling out little balls, getting them into the circular shape, and then attaching them. And I'm going for around the same thickness for each petal, but it doesn't have to be exact. You just don't want one really, really thin and one really, really thick. I think that would look a little bit, odd. But, as long as you get them pretty close, I think it'll look good. They don't have to be perfect. Once I'm happy with that, I'm going to go ahead and cut off a little bit of clay on the bottom so it sits a little flatter on the stem. And then I went ahead and inserted the wire into the flower part, so that way when I go to glue it on, that's already, can just slide right on there, and it'll help hold it into place and support that weight of the flower on the top. So now that I'm pretty happy with how the size and that works, I'm just going to go ahead and adjust the petals a little bit, bring them out, give them a little more curve to them, make my flower look a little fuller. And once I am completely happy with it, I'm going to go ahead and bake it according to package instructions. Once it's cooled down, I can go ahead and glue it into place. So I'm going to go ahead and slide it onto the stem one more time to make sure it still fits. I'm going to add my Loctite super glue gel to the stem, and then I'm going to press that flower onto it. Hold it for a few seconds, and then it's ready to be glossed. So I'm just using some Sculpey gloss coat, and I'm just going to the edges of the petals. I don't want to cover the whole flower with it. I don't want it to be super shiny, but I want to add a little more shine to it, for my space rose. And it's got a lot of sparkly in there from the Premo Sculpey that I used. It's actually Premo Accents, I think is what they call it, but it's in the same section that you find your Premo clay. Going over all the little edges, making sure it's got a nice coverage to it, lightly glossing over. This is pretty much the final step here. I'm happy with that. We're going to go ahead and let this dry overnight. And here is the finished rose sculpted out of polymer clay. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If you liked this video, be sure to give it a like down below. And if you haven't already done so, be sure to subscribe to my channel. Alright, well thanks for watching, and remember, never stop creating. Bye!